our listeners wrote in these questions on Instagram. First one is favorite restaurant in Florida.
Oh, that's becoming I'm getting a little tired. But my favorite restaurant in Florida, I think, is still Kitchen in West Palm on Belvedere. Okay. Delicious fish, and all the ingredients are very, very good. And he's the chef is there all the time. I think it's good.
My favorites always change. I like Brick Tops and Palm Beach Grill.
Yeah, well, those are favorites of everybody. Can't get in anymore, though, but it's good.
Yeah.
I think my favorite restaurant is Pizza Al Fresco.
Yeah. Oh, somebody was saying the fish there.
It's very
so
good.
Fabulous.
It is.
That's what they were discussing yesterday.
The salmon used to be really good too, and I love the pizza.
Yeah.
And I just have so many good memories. So for me, I think
and
restaurants are more about memories. But they have to have good food too. So the pizza,
the setting and the vibe, all plays a part.
I remember my children being little, and they had one of the neighbors that looks onto the Pizza Al Fresco has a pet
Has the pig.
Yeah.
It entertained my kids. 50 meals.
The pig is still there, by
50. I could bring coloring books, crayon, anything. They looked at the pig.
Right.
So for me, that's
a good one. Cute. Okay. How to build close friendships?
Well, be authentic. And you don't have that many. If you can count one or two people to be a close friend, you'll be very lucky. And you have to be honest with them and be caring.
I do feel like I have like adult
friends. You have a lot of friends
that I made. Obviously, the people I know from school, like those are longer term relationships. But then when you are living in the city or wherever you are and you like want to make some new friends, I do feel like it goes a long way to not constantly because you don't want to be annoying as a new friend, but like once every few weeks at least, like try to get a dinner on the books to kind of form that new relationship, because it does take time to like start something new. And it's kind of like you're dating
busy.
Friends and
you're busy. And so people have to make time.
In advance. And also like, if you really want to be friends with this new person, remembering, this is obvious, but like remember things that they said, like show interest in
what they're doing,
all that.
Yeah. I think I've developed closer friendships later in life. I think when I was younger, I was always so focused, always so determined, and I missed sight of a lot along the way. And I think friendships was one of them. And as an adult, what I've learned most about friendships, the upside of them, is you can have a close friend for 2 or 3 years. And then that close friend, you're not so close with them anymore because your life changes or their life changes or you're in different places or time frames. So I have some mom friends that I've developed and they are really close friends. Maybe I don't speak to them as much or see them as much, but once you have that like close bond with someone, the friendship can be picked up at different spots, different times. I could text any of them and say, where do I get my daughter a dress or something like this? And they would write back in 1 second. That's sort of the beauty and the upside, I think, of friendships once you spend the time to develop.
And I think the friends you made, and you have a lot of friends from when you were growing up in secondary school and then, of course, at Cornell. I think those friends, if they live in the same community as you and share the same values, you'll end up keeping forever because it's a shared experience. Then, as Sarah was saying, the ones you meet through your children and your school, which is really probably the ones you really stay with most of the time because they have common interests, especially around the family.
But I get so offended when my friends say, like, sometimes they're like, well, we're moving from New York and we'll make new friends. And I'm like, what, are you drop me?
Well, no, but they will make new friends and that's normal.
Let's not talk about it.
Okay.
Like, I don't like the idea.
No, but Max is, my boyfriend, Max, is really good at keeping up with his friendships. And he has friends all over the place. And he's just really good at keeping in touch with them. One thing he does that I notice is if he reads a good article, he'll send it to the friend that he thinks of. And that's just a really good way to stay in touch with people, regardless of where they are.
Yeah, I like that. Speaking of boyfriends, are there fewer high quality men now than there were when you were young?
I don't think they are. It's just that we didn't have boyfriends as long. Within a couple of months, you would, certainly not when you were a teenager or when you were early 20s, but by the time you were 23, you were already married. I mean, we didn't live with people for 2 years and have a conversation. Maybe we'll go to the next level next year. I mean, that wasn't heard of. First of all, women didn't live outside of their homes. So that's a whole different story. And we really can't really compare. from the 50s, 60s, and even the
But
early
there is
70s.
that trope that everyone says that I don't like to perpetuate of like, all the good guys are gone. they're all
No, I don't
taken,
agree with
and-
that. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's just you have different, as you get older, you need different things. And when I was younger, it wasn't, you were looking for a partner who maybe you would start a family with and say, oh my gosh, he's got a good living, we can do it together and whatever. As you get older, you have different values. You want different things out of it. And if you're starting out at 30, it's not the same conversation as when you're 22 or 23.
Yeah.
So I think there are plenty of good women out there, plenty of good men out there. It's just who clicks with you.
Right. I think it's the best time to meet men. I think men have never been better because
Yeah.
women are better and
Yeah.
women are more empowered, right? So
that's true.
the men that I'm raising, that I'm bringing up, know about therapy, know about, they're being raised in a home where I'm an entrepreneur, I'm starting a business. So I think like the best group of men, probably is coming up. And I think there are a lot out there in their 30s that have been raised in a
Right.
different way than men had been raised previously.
Mhm.
And they're much more open-minded to
Yes.
having a very open partnership.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I'm going to use that response, like if I'm asked that, because it is so true. Like the culture now has shifted in a lot of ways for the better. Obviously, we lose some of the, nice manners,
I don't-
tradition, like those kind of things that I'm a nostalgic person. I like those things of the past, but
I still think the man should be the head of the house. I don't care how wonderful the woman is. and
How do you
brilliant.
define head of the house?
I think he should be and of course this isn't applicable in many cases today, but still the breadwinner for the most part. A woman can have a career, so if they're 50-50, perfect. But the man still should be the father, still should be the person that the children look up to as the ultimate person. The mother is the nurturer, father is the provider. I know it's old-fashioned. I still think it works. And I think when you disrupt it, it doesn't always work. And then the kids end up suffering because they're not sure who is really heading the ship. Somebody has to run the ship.
Well, I think
And you
what
make a decision right in the beginning. You want me to run the ship, or you want you to run the ship. Somebody has to run the ship. And I think when there's equal partnering, it doesn't usually work because nothing is ever equal in a relationship.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I agree with you 100%, but I think children are more sophisticated
Well, I
now,
hope so.
and they're able to
Yeah.
understand the nuances of
Right.
relationships, right? So, I can be in the partnership I have
Right.
while I'm raising my
Right.
children. My kids kind of know
Well, that's very different now.
parents,
Right.
their mother's sort
Right.
of the powerhouse for that one.
Right.
Their father makes the decision
Right.
for that one. They pick it up so
They
easily.
know.
And so it becomes more, even in my relationship with my ex, like Dave and I have really evolved in our relationship, and our kids sort of understand the dynamics of
Well, you're
who's-
lucky.
right.
You're
Well,
lucky.
but I worked so
You
hard
worked at it.
for it.
You
I mean,
worked
we've
for
worked
it.
so hard to
Yeah.
progress a relationship that really works in the modern world. And then my part Max and I work, all the time to sort of define and redefine what that makes.
Yeah.
It means. Right?
Yeah, I think the redefining is a huge part because, like, one, to say that it works the way that you had it, like, I don't think it worked for a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of people
50% of the people got divorced.
right, and I think a lot of people were unhappy even if they didn't get divorced. So to say it worked, like, I'm happy it worked for you, obviously, but
Correct.
I think that I don't know. Obviously, things are shifting and changing because they weren't really working.
Well, I don't know if it ever works. I think relationships have to be worked out between two people. And I think when you take away certain innate characteristics, which I have seen with some women, not all women, certainly not you and not you, but a lot of women emasculate a man and make them feel that they're really
I don't think
not-
that's true at all. I
You
think
know?
you should be
Okay.
comfortable in yourself so that no one can emasculate you, no one can
but I'm not
defeminize
sure
you,
that
no
can
one
be
can.
true, if that's true. Though.
Well, then they shouldn't be with somebody who.
Well, that person.
If they have such a fragile ego,
Yeah.
that someone being successful around them doesn't make them feel more motivated, and then it brings them down. One, they have their own demons, but fine, they can
All
find
right.
someone that they're
I
not
hope
gonna.
you're right. I hope you're right because a lot of women out there are very unhappy in their relationships, and I think a lot of men are unhappy. I think that it used to be a
Right.
simpler time, and I think now roles are not defined as such, and this has become an issue. I don't know the answer. That's for sure.
No, I agree. I used to see things as very black and white.
Right.
I think
You
that's how
can't.
I was raised. Everything is black and white, right? And so I think life is really more nuanced.
Right.
And you kind of have to live in the gray.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it was especially true for
Very
me.
hard.
I was extremely uncomfortable
Mhm.
living in the gray. I wanted definitive answers. I wanted a definitive
Right.
family structure.
Yeah.
Right? Because that felt comfortable. going into the gray areas is kind of uncomfortable, right? And I think women are just starting to get comfortable being in that gray area and having confidence around them, seeing other women. You know, so you're a young woman, like you come to me and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to open up every thing I have to be like, yes, you can do it.
Right.
Like, yes, you can have a modern relationship.
It's a sisterhood now.
You know, and women are learning how to support themselves, how to have relationships, how to make men feel great, but not in the traditional, masculine, feminine roles. And that we work on. And I think it's also in a relationship, it's like constant work in terms of, I think a lot of men are unhappy. I think a lot of women are unhappy, but I think through productive conversation, it's the only way to stay sane,
Now we've cured everybody. There's a person listening to this podcast that isn't cured.